how exactly does a husband and a wife develop a family culture? There's a very sticky, challenging issue that couples have, and it has to do with the way that men and women are wired. And April, I've heard you talk a lot about this recently, about, okay, there are subtle things that a wife does to partner and sort of accentuate the culture that the father's trying to lead the family into. And there are subtle things that a wife does that I think are helpful in the short term, but subtly undermine the ability for a father to develop a cohesive family culture. So there's a couple of different clips I want to play for you. This one is really interesting. This is a homeschool mom who was kind of wrestling with this question, and she says something kind of surprising in this. So April, I wanted you to like kind of give me your take on what she describes here about the family culture. All right, this is Sarah McKenzie. She's on the Lila Rose podcast.
You just about family culture.
Yeah.
Because I feel like so much of what you're saying comes back to the mom and the dad and the marriage, quite frankly. And you said something really interesting earlier about really so much of this depends on the peace and the joy of the mom.
Yeah.
And you would want the dad too to have that as well. So what would be some tips for you that you would give those listening to cultivate that? Because maybe they're feeling like, I would like to do this, but I don't feel like I can do this because on an emotional kind of psychological bandwidth, I don't feel up to the task. And so putting them in school so that I can at least do some self-care even.
Yeah.
Maybe they're thinking that.
Yeah. Well,
It's a big question, I know.
Yeah. One of the things that comes to mind for me right away is that early on, I said I read like way too much, really. I read too much philosophy of education kind of stuff because it's just my personality type to like read everything I can get my hands on when I get excited about something. And to the point where I was sort of ignoring the children that were in front of me and idealizing this Charlotte Mason kind of education or classical education or whatever it was. And it changed. One of the things that did, unfortunately, is it gave me sort of this prideful, like, I know what I'm doing here because I'm the one who's reading all the books. So when my husband would make a suggestion for our homeschool, I would think, you don't know. I'm the one who's doing the reading. I'm the one. And I oftentimes in those early years sort of discounted what he would suggest or say. That is probably my number one advice. I would say, like, better, more than anything else I've said, what I should have done in those early days is ask my husband 20 years from now, what do you want our kids to say? Because he loves these children. Yeah, shared vision. Exactly. And then is there a way that I can, when I'm homeschooling the kids, can modify the way I was going to do it to also make sure that we're encompassing the way that really, when I made that shift is when he got excited about homeschooling and that changes everything. So if you have like a spouse, whether it's your husband or it's whoever's doing most of the homeschooling, right? Mom or dad. If you can get a shared vision so that you both are really excited about it, that changes the whole tone and tenor of your homeschool. And then I think it also makes it easier for the one who's not doing most of the homeschooling to support. And, a lot of times in those days, I would say, like, I just need 2 hours in a coffee shop with nobody touching me. Because, when you've got all the little kids, they're always touching you. I just need to go. He would, send me off to the coffee shop for a couple hours on a Saturday morning so that I could have a minute. And a lot of times I was just planning homeschooling. So it's not even, I didn't need a break from that necessarily. I just needed a minute. And
this is such a tricky, I really liked, she's kind of putting her finger on something. I think we've talked a lot about, April. I'm just curious your thoughts on this because there is an unholy alliance in our culture between the boss mom and the passive dad. We have created a culture where that is very common, especially within the Christian world. So, and man, as a husband and father, I am so happy for you to just take all of this. You read all the books and I can do whatever I want. It's like, and so it feels like, oh, this is a great divide and conquer, perfect thing. This is how it should work. The mom, she can go to all the conferences, read all the books, hang out at all the co-ops, hang out with all the moms and make this whole thing like her realm. And the dad gets to be like, gets the free pass And so Sarah's, as you know, a really really advanced home educator. I mean, she started, I think, Read Along Revival. I mean, she's a very thoughtful woman who's really, and she's going back and saying, if I could do one thing over again, it would be to form a team with my husband and make this an us thing instead of a me thing, so that he could have um, a large influence over the culture of our education. And I know that, you know, we struggle with this. Like, I don't think we did this perfectly at all, but I think this is such a great observation. What does that stir up for you?
Are you talking about schooling specifically or culture?
Anything. I think this happens in every realm where the husband and wife's where the wife where they agree to divide and conquer around some core area of the family's culture. This could be the food of the family, the entertainment of the family, the location of the family, the work of the family, the schooling of the family, the biblical education of the family. Like, this is a very common pattern, and where the mom has a vision, she does the research, and the husband gets more and more passive.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That is definitely a thing for sure. And we've had our own journey in this. When you start out as newlyweds, you're trying to figure out you're having these arguments probably daily on like, no, this is how you take the trash out. No, this is how you take the trash out. No, this is how you should organize things in a refrigerator. No, this is how you load a dishwasher. So, like from the beginning, I feel like let alone like big picture, where should we live and how should we discipline our children, you know?
Yes.
In the beginning, this journey of becoming one is trying to get on the same page about so many different things. And um, so I would say, on one hand, be gracious with yourself because it's a process and it's a journey. But if you don't have the goal or the understanding of we are a team, we're in this together, we have each other's backs, um, then I think it can very quickly become very individualistic and one preference has to beat out another preference instead of like really trying to understand each other, trying to get to know each other better. Um, and then, as that morphs into having that first child, I mean, everything from like, how do you decorate your house? How do you, like, what do you hang things on the wall? If so, what kinds of things? And I think that when you start having kids, it just exponentially grows those conversations.
Yeah.
Do we bathe our kids every night? Is that a once a week thing? Is that like, do we change their sheets every night? Do we, like, you have to figure out so who makes those decisions and how do you go? So I think there's just lots of conversations that need to happen. And so I would say communication skills are huge. They are so important. Learning how to hear each other, and learning how to articulate instead of sitting and shutting down, learning how to articulate how you're feeling. Um, Listening with what's that phrase? Desire to understand more than to be understood.
Yeah.
Um, Being patient with each other as we try to like get over ourselves and like be honest and lay down our pride and be humble and like that sometimes takes time. And anyway, just learning all those communication skills that you might associate with a newlywed phase or like the beginning of your marriage, you have to keep up on those as life does get more complex
Yeah.
because the divide and conquer will come. um and you have to know when you've gone too far with the
Yeah.
divide and